Pretty, right? It's hard to tell on the camera but I live in the American Southwest, Southwest United States, I guess I should say, in Las Vegas, Nevada. And then I also visit my mother quite a bit, who's elderly and alone, in southern Utah. The two states are adjacent, and it's only a couple hours away from door to door. But I just felt like I wanted to talk right now, kind of again taking my cues from some of my friends who are braver than me. They don't record it, they do a Facebook Live, and they just kind of talk. They say that they journal to themselves, their future selves. People who want to listen can listen. They call it Jesus TV. And the reason why these particular friends, this is their reasoning from asking them and listening to them and stuff, is they're just trying to get more Jesus in their lives. The ones I'm thinking of, they all happen to belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, home of Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, by the way, and a lot of other good things. And sorry, I'm saying, I gotta get my thoughts together, but but I've met other people like them that are part of other churches, and even other like Islamic people like these guys. These guys call themselves Jesus street preachers. They don't really go on the street very often, although they do that sometimes, but they use Facebook and they just basically talk, kind of like I'm talking. If I was standing, I'm not as good as they are, meaning I don't know, I'm not the same as far as my style as them. I'm not trying to be them, but they've taught me a couple really cool truths about approaching Heavenly Father, and that's otherwise known as God, otherwise known as Jesus Christ, otherwise known as the Holy Ghost. I believe that they are three. I was taught and believe that they are three separate personalities, but they're part of the same. They're part of what is God. They're part of something really, really great, just like I'm part of that too. But I believe that I'm in a learning process, a growing process. In fact, I actually have the belief, which is just my best guess. It's just my best guess after everything I've thought about and read and listened to, kind of tested. My best guess is that Jesus is growing us, or Heavenly Father is growing us, or God is growing us. All these names are just approximations. He is, you've heard that, I am. But we have names. I say Heavenly Father or Jesus usually. Sometimes a still small voice. But I believe he's like a gardener. That actually the universe is both darkness and light. And there are different frequencies of light, obviously. And there is intelligent light. That's what's going on here. And I have other opinions about that I could talk about, but and I believe that what we're trying to do here is to create heaven on earth. That's what we're trying to do here. But Satan says we can do it through force, and Jesus says we can do it through freedom. And everybody that I live around, I grew up in Babylon. That's a metaphorical term for societies who choose force to run their society. Now, don't get me wrong, there are forces of nature, and there are consequences, and there's things like that. But in Babylon, the main answer to problems is use force. And in Babylon, some people love dictatorships. Most of the people in Babylon would prefer like a majority rules democracy, but nobody really wants or even thinks is possible, because of the way we've grown up, a republic of networked communities that decide by consent. In other words, a community that doesn't use majority rules nor dictatorship. Everybody says democracy, it's so important, we're going to defend democracy. I love democracy too. But democracy, remember, just comes from demokratia, which we can talk about, but basically means the two-legged ones move. The people that move on two legs have power. So it just means that, the people, the majority rules is one type of democracy, and there's other types of democracy, but majority rules is kind of the bare minimum to have a democracy. Anyways, but people think, oh, that's so wonderful, in lieu of a dictatorship, I guess. But it's still bad, because as soon as you have a majority rules democracy, you can now start to make secret plans. You support me and I'll do this for you. And secret combinations start with majority rules democracies. I mean, they're around dictatorships too, but they definitely start with majority rules democracies. And they're better, they're kept at bay more because there's more people watching. But history shows that that doesn't always, just basically that every time we choose hierarchical systems, every time we choose systems where I'm in charge and you're the next level and you're the next level, instead of we adults in this community of, whatever, 500 families or 200 families, we decide on what we're going to do together and the way we deal with problems, and the way we raise our children and educate them. We decide by common consent. Oh, that's impossible. It's impossible to say. But what I'm telling you is my belief, my best guess, is that that is what separates Babylon from Zion. And there's a lot of opinions and a lot of books written, some of which I've read. But I believe that really Zion is just about the mechanics, and and I just know this from learning and thinking and discussing and making it a matter of something I think about a lot. And I'm open-minded to listen to other people and improve my understanding. But I believe that Zion really is just, yes, there's goodness and kindness and love, but all that stuff happens almost naturally, not only because we love Jesus so much, or approximations of Jesus, those things that are light and true and good, but also because we decide to organize like Jesus wanted in the war in heaven, in the primordial existence, in the war in heaven. He wanted this. We decide to organize by consent, by freedom. And so that is that to me is the goal. The difference between Babylon and Zion is what? To the extent that we do things by agreement. And in the family, of course, we have children that are dependents, that are learning to be part of that process of discussion. Because you can't have a common consent community unless three things: your voice, your ability to communicate your ideas, your thoughts, your dreams, your take on things, your perspective. That's your voice. You have to have that. You have to have your vote. Right now we all think, oh, it's democracy, we have our vote. We do have a vote, and we can send out memes, but we are not sitting at the table helping to discuss. Well, that's not how it works, Andy. We elect people that we trust, and they go do that, and then they run it by us, but they don't really run it by us. And we trust, and it just evolves into this. I'm not saying, I love the Constitution, and I've studied it extensively and have deep reverence for the framers of it. And I know that it was needed to pull us out of, the entire world was run on hierarchies, and it was an awesome way to pit one branch of government against another branch, but they were still built on hierarchies. They just hoped that the Constitution and all these auxiliary precautions where they can check and balance each other would keep it going. But it was still established in Babylon, which is through hierarchies. Imagine if Jesus, imagine this is how it was set up. Maybe if I say picture the whole world, but if you want, you could just picture the United States. That's where I'm from, because we always think, okay, the Constitution, we got all these states, we got the central authority where everybody meets is in Washington, D.C. It's a district, it's not a state. So that way people can just come there to meet, because we're a republic. But we start, there's a lot of different kinds of republics, just like there's different kinds of democracies. But imagine that America, but instead of what I just described, it's Jesus is our King. And for those of you who aren't sure about Jesus right now, just then, the light and truth is our King. Goodness and, the great unknown, where that's our King. That's who we all answer to. And we have a culture of developing a relationship. He's invisible, all right? He's invisible, but he's invisible for a reason. That's part of how he grows us. And I think there's a lot of doctrine for this anyway. But imagine if what we do is we all seek to know the will of that great being through the still small voice. We seek within ourselves our best self. See, our best self, part of us that's good and kind and generous and strong and brave and courageous and humble, and the best part of us, that's God. So what we do is we try hard to listen to that, not to the justifications to do things that our best self wouldn't do, but to our best self. And then we tell each other what our best self is saying and what we think God would want us to do. And we listen to each other and we shape our understanding. We're humans. This is part of the growing process. We know that those voices in our head are at least two. They're the still small voice and our ego. And the ego can get things done sometimes, and it can solve problems, and it can do our daily work and help us earn our daily bread and things like that. But it can also come up with all kinds of things where our higher self, our super ego, or our spirit, our soul, that still small voice is communicating to that. And so we tell each other, hey, this is what I think. I think the road should go this way. Jesus tells me that we should do a road and a bridge here all together, and it'd be awesome. Well, Jesus isn't telling me that same thing. Oh, okay, so maybe it's a timing issue, or maybe we need to talk about it more. Okay, in the meantime, let's do the problem this way. Well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to build the bridge yet. I want to think about that for a while, but for now, let's do it this way. Well, okay, meet me in this way. We'll kind of make it this way. Okay, yeah, we all like that. Yeah, let's move forward. Jesus, does that sound good? We all shared with each other what we thought that you were saying to us, and we listened to each other. We had our voice. Every voice was heard and considered, not just the people who are charismatic and really smart. And then not in the entire country, in every little individual group of communities. We all listen and we all decide and we discuss and we debate and we pray and we think, and then we decide on something. Okay, guys, we got to go feed our families. We got to do all those other things. Right now we're talking about a project that's for all of us. You guys also have projects that are just for you and your families. So what can we agree on right now? Well, we can agree on continuing the way we've been going, and then maybe, let's do these 3 or 4 things. Hey, I don't want to do that one, but as long as we keep it to those 3 things, and then we can revisit this, I'm fine with that. You too? Yeah, you too? How's everybody? You still have a problem with this? Okay, what can you agree to? Yeah, okay, everybody good with that? Boom, we agree to that. Now let's go home, take care of our families, provide value for the community. When we meet again, we'll try to figure out what we can agree on then. Now, some people say that's impossible, but I'm just sharing with you my guess, my belief that is the difference between the main differences between Babylon and Zion. And this is just my opinion. What I feel like Jesus is telling me is you organize in a networked republic of communities of common consent. And when they do things with other communities, they do send representatives, just like a republic does. But the community chooses them by unanimous consent. Well, I want Bob. I want Sarah. Well, I don't want Bob. I don't want Sarah. Well, how about, Jerry? Yeah, I like Jerry. Okay, you like Jerry too? Yeah, well, I could go with Jerry. Okay, everybody's cool with Jerry? Yeah, Jerry. And you send Jerry up there. Jerry meets with the people that all the other groups decided on by common consent. And they discuss and listen to each other and listen to what this other group said. Hey, our group, we all agreed to this one thing. I've been sent here to share that with you and to make compromises and to see what we can get done. Whoa, you mean everybody in your community of I don't know, 500 people, all the adults, maybe it's 150 people, I don't know. But you guys all agreed to this kind of plan, this basic approach? Yep. We argued, we discussed, we debated, but we all came up with it. Some people wanted more, some people wanted less, but we all agreed to this. Wow, that's great. Ours is similar. They share what happened to theirs. Wow, ours is a totally different idea. Whoa, we never even thought about that idea. Whoa, neither did we. Or however the conversation goes. They go through that same process they went before, but now when they all come up with something that they all agree with, yes, we all agree with this, that's so awesome, they go back and seek ratification. And it's a process, but so is Washington, D.C., so is the community courts, so are all kinds of things. And those communities will decide to deal with their own crime their own way. They may choose to have people on a call list where they choose to, they agree to be on a jury at call, unless there's an emergency, that you would come, you'd drop what you were doing and come and help solve a problem instead of going through all kinds of other things. I believe that Zion will have communities of common consent, networked in a republic, a true republic. I believe that their king will be Jesus, or approximations of him, while people kind of get to understand what's going on in the universe, myself included. And I believe that they will tithe and or tax by interest, the way Joseph Smith was commanded in the Doctrine and Covenants. The Lord, my understanding is the Lord in the Doctrine and Covenants said that this law was not going to change. I think it's D&C 119 possibly, but this law does not change, and it's an interest tithe. Anybody who knows finance, and if you don't, it's easy to look it up. Interest would be what you own, not what you bring in, not your income. It's what you own. It's what you have at the end of the year after you paid all of your expenses. That's your interest. So if you have an interest tithe, the rich pay the majority of the tithes. The poor don't pay the tithe at all. They get 10% of the excess, of the annual excess. The tithe, that's what the tithe is. What do you have extra? If I have, at the end of the year, I pay all my bills, I pay my house payment, and all of a sudden I have, I don't know, $3,000 left, then I'd pay 10% of that, and the community would take that money, take that property, whatever it was. Let's say I was even, I did better than that this year. Let's say I created, at the end of the year, after all my expenses were paid, I bought 100 acres of land. I'd give 10 of those acres to the community, and the community would decide what to do with that, and they would go to poor people, and the poor people would be helped by the community in creating ways to feed themselves and to create value in the community and to have pride and some people don't like the word pride, but just have a beautiful, safe, awesome community with kids who are educated well, and the community decides by common consent how their kids are educated, and they keep an eye out. When things don't look right, someone may say in one of the communities, I'm not happy with the way things are going and I want to look at some changes. And so then the community needs to come to something that they can all agree to and hear this person out, or help that person see that maybe it was the ego that was talking to them, and that only comes through conversation. In Zion, in my opinion, the difference between Zion and Babylon is Zion organizes by community common consent. They tithe and they tax by interest, not income. Income that's the worst way to do it. That's the worst way. Income, that means that the poorest person, let's say the tithe is 10%, the poorest person that only made, $10 that day has to give $1 of it away. That's a lot if you only made $10. The guy that made $10,000 of that day, he gives $1,000. What is that to him? He could live 100 days on that $10,000. So you grind the faces of the poor when you change the tithing that God commanded in the Doctrine and Covenants from an interest tithe, which the church decided, and they had their reasons, and God will work that out with them, and Jesus will work that out with them. It's not my place. But in 1844, about 6 weeks after Joseph Smith was sadly killed and martyred for his beliefs, only because of his beliefs, Brigham Young, this is my understanding. If anyone knows any different, tell me. But he had them change. You can even see in the church record they actually, have a line through the word interest, and they change it to income. And they have all these reasons why and all these things. But I'm just telling you, from a basic understanding of economics, there's a huge difference between interest and income. The rich would much rather it be income than interest. And if you don't understand that, then we could have another talk later on. But those are two of the main things, and then everything else kind of goes off of that. Is there love there? Is there friend? Are there certain things that Heavenly Father wants us to do? Are there arguments? Are there issues with people that have mental illness? Are there, there's all kinds of things. That's what life is all about. But we choose to handle those things as a community of consent. Where at first it bugged us because so-and-so had a different opinion than us, but instead of going to hey, let's get this guy voted out, we figure out what the problem is. We go to him, we talk things through, we try to understand the voice of the Lord better, and we make decisions by agreement. I don't think it takes that long before a community is really getting things together. And those people who scream and yell and say that would be chaos, I'm going to say they love Babylon. I'm not saying they're bad people. Yeah, but we can get way more done this way. Maybe that's true. Maybe the corporate, system does make more money. But it always leads to a centralization of power, and my understanding, my opinion, destroyed communities. The difference between Babylon and heaven is the organization by force and control, or the organization by freedom, liberty and consent. Liberty has lots of definitions, but my definition of liberty is free hands that add value to community. Free hands, free people, free individuals, free spirits, however you want to say it, but free hands that add value to community. That's what liberty is. And when you have that with common consent, the darkness has no place. The darkness has no place. They can't have secret little discussions and inner circles. You can, but ultimately nothing's going to get done as a group unless everybody vets everybody and starts to understand how that person thinks and maybe what some of their concerns are. And now communities are getting richer and more beautiful and more safe, and even the poorest among them have property and homes. And if you can't see that vision, then I'll try to help you see it, because I've seen it, and I'm grateful to be able to have seen it, and it's my belief. And I'm grateful for Jesus, because Jesus makes it all possible. He's that thing. He's the living water. He's the breath of life. He's the thing that allows this light, this intelligent light that's within us, to exist within time. Time just means that there's things orbiting. That's what time means. Things orbit. As soon as you have an atom, you have time. Before that, you have linear spiraling light, and we could talk about that later too. But I just want to share, kind of like my Jesus Street Preachers friends, at least for my future self, so that when my future self looks back and says, what was Andy thinking, in October of 2023, before we go to war in 2024, with charity as our biggest weapon. And I mean that. I don't think weapons are going to help us prevail. I know a lot of us have, really strong feelings about defending your family, and I'm ready to defend my family against a robber or whatever was trying to hurt us, of course. But I have a feeling that we're going to gain more ground in this coming challenge, not by fighting with arms, but by fighting with charity and fighting with spiritual things like that, with love, like maybe like the Ammonites did, maybe, or they're some people know what that means, but basically these were people that in history, ancient history actually, that decided to bury their weapons of war. They actually had a little ceremony, they buried them, and just said, God, it's just over and over, it's fighting, and it's like, if that's how it's going to be, we hope people don't kill us, but we don't want to take up arms against our brothers. We just want to follow you. And the story goes with them that they did lay down their arms when their enemies came. They knelt down on the ground, prostrate. I think that's the word, prostrate. And they just prayed. And the story says that they started to be slaughtered. While they're sitting there praying, they started to be slaughtered, but their enemies soon stopped the slaughter and felt so bad about what they were doing. Like, these people, they're not so bad, they're just praying. They're not even trying to defend themselves. What are we doing sitting here killing them? So they stopped, and they're like, asked them what's going on here, and the Ammonites told them, we just don't want to fight anymore. And they says that in the history, that this is in the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ, and I've read it, and I believe it is. I read it carefully and slowly, so that's just my opinion for those of you who don't believe it. But this other testament of Jesus Christ, in this story, the enemy of these Ammonites, actually more of them joined in this same covenant of nonviolence than were slain, than the Ammonites that had just, were slain while they prayed. And it's still horrible and tragic that some were slain, but what a cool story. And I believe that that's where we're going to make more ground. Not that I want to put my head down and be slain, but that we fight with charity and with love and with unity. Not with the most charismatic telling us what to do or telling us what God told them to do, but with all of us listening to each other. We have to have our voice in Zion, our experiences, our opinions, our understanding, our knowledge, our background, all of that. We have to have our vote. That's just our yes or no. That's all a vote is. It's a John Hancock. It's a I vote this or I vote that. That's it. When that's disconnected with voice, I mean, what is it? It's like some people say, yeah, you can have this or that. Well, I don't want either one. That's why voice has to be connected with vote and value. A friend of mine that came up with those VVV, I just think those are really cool. His name's Keith Kelch, awesome guy. But our value is what we earn, what we create. We have to have that protected so that it inspires us to create more. And in Zion, when we have extra, we give out 10% of it. It's awesome. And our whole society gets better, and it's awesome. I say awesome a lot, but it is. That's the word I chose for a reason. It's big, it's huge, it's different. We've got to come up out of Babylon. That's my belief. I'm a filthy, low-down sinner, I mean, I love Jesus, and I don't try to hurt anyone. I mean no harm. I live by the credo that I try to be genuine, I try to act in good faith, I try to intend no harm. That's my credo. And also, I stay with God. I love Him. I'm thankful for Him. He's my buddy. He's my friend. He sits with me. He talks to me. He jokes with me. And these street preacher friends of mine, like Greg Muller, Aaron Smith, maybe Jonathan McCormick, and like Everett, Anson Everett, and others. They help me understand how I can do that. They help me how I can create. They help me to understand how I can create an Andy Jesus world. And Andy and Jesus are making this world together, and we're trying to make it as beautiful as we can and good as we can. And every once in a while I do dumb things, and I turn to Jesus, and He just looks at me, and I'm like, have you been there the whole time while I was doing this stupid thing that I'm really sad about already? And I've actually done it before, and I'm so sorry, God, that why do I keep doing these stupid things? I really want to improve. You've been watching me this whole time? He's like, yeah. And you still love me? Yeah. I just sad for you because I want you to be happy. Well, what should I do? You know, and then he tells me what I should do, and my ego's like, no, you should do this, you should do that. And he's like, if my ego talks too loud, I can't even hear him. If I've learned, I'm getting better, and I can kind of, I've learned to, learn to kind of discern the still small voice and and then my ego. And I'm not always right, but when I talk to him more and I say, oh, Jesus is telling me this, Jesus is telling me that, you know, every once in a while he's like, oh yeah, well, you know, you kind of misunderstood me back then, but I just tell him I'm sorry, and my belief changes because he helps me understand the right way. And I love it because it's between me and him. Anything he tells me to do, he's never going to tell me to hurt you. He's never going to tell me to be fake. He's never going to tell me to lie, cheat, or steal. At least he hasn't told me to do any of that yet. Any times I've ever done that, it's because I did it, and I'm so sorry for it. And I'm grateful for him, you know what I mean? And I'm grateful for our relationship, and I know that that's a big part of Zion as well as the mechanics of Zion. And one last thing, the last thing I'll just say is I was raised a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I love the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was excommunicated because I broke the rules, and I'm very, very sorry for that. I did not love the way it happened. I don't think that's the way Jesus Christ would have it done. That's just my personal opinion, or even handle that. But either way, like, I went on a mission on the church. That was awesome. 2 years, almost 2 years, where I taught the gospel to the deaf and hearing impaired people. I mean, they had classes, they had events, it was awesome. And do I believe that? Yeah, I mean, I believe that the church needs to buck up to what happened, which is, one, we decided not to build. We kind of have this rumor about the law of consecration, but it scares everybody. They're like, oh crap, I have to give everything in mine, and the bishop will tell me what I can have back, but that's not really how it works. That's when you first join the community. Then once that happens, all you agree to is 10% of your extra at the end of the year thereafter. And then you agree to the community of common consent, and then you also agree that you'll develop your system of order and growth and beauty and all those things together with Jesus as your king by common consent. I love the Mormon church. I think I have friends and loved ones who have left the Mormon church. Again, I was asked to leave, and it was a very sad and dark time for me. Since then, that was like 10 years ago. Since then, I was born again on November 1st, 2018 in a New Jersey motel. I was all by myself except for Jesus and angels, and I'm grateful for that experience. And by the way, since I've had that experience, I can't get that out of my head. I mean, I can think about it every day. And did it make me perfect? No, but I'm definitely born again. I'm grateful for that time and the things that happened in that experience. And I know Jesus is real. And I know the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the true church. It's the Iron Kingdom of Christianity. If you go by Daniel's prophecies, it's the fourth kingdom of Christianity after the first kingdom, the head of gold, the second kingdom, the chest of silver, which was the Roman church, the third kingdom, which was the belly and thighs of brass, which was the Protestant church, and the legs and feet of iron, which is the Mormon church, and miry clay, which I think is kind of the Mormon kind of, ex-Mormon evangelical-ish maybe, but anyway, and the only way that we're going to let Zion come in is if we start saying no to authority. I'm talking about the people who have it. I'm not saying we try to take it from them. They will hold on to it for dear life. I think we should convince them that we should set down that authority and give it to Jesus and to the community. And that's how it's going to work. And that's how we'll come up out of Babylon. And that's how we'll show fruit. And that's how, we'll keep from him chewing us down and throwing us into the fire. I mean, I don't mean that in a scary way. I just mean that in whatever cosmic situation what's going on here is there is a timeline. if you're a Christian and you don't believe that there's a timeline, then you have to ask the question, why did the prophets give prophecies that were meant for the last days? If they say it was meant for the last days, even when they're telling it to the people, then they say it's meant for the last days, before the final redemption. Why do they have times in there? Weeks, 70 weeks, Daniel chapter 9. Why do they have that? Why do they have 1,260 days? Why do they have these time periods? So something's going on where we have a time period to bear fruit. How do we bear fruit? We choose, not an authority, not the hand of authority. The stone kingdom is built without the hand of authority. That's what it means to cut it without hand. It'll roll forth without the hand of authority. It'll roll forth, in my belief, by choice and by consent and by communion with Jesus and by all these other things I talked about that make up the mechanics of Zion. And what's so hard about that? I don't want to be in charge. I just want to be part of a community that all gets together. We listen to each other's voices. We consider what each other say, and we come to something we can agree on, and we repeat. We repeat that process until our communities are beautiful and lovely and of good report and praiseworthy. And I hope my future self doesn't cringe too much when he listens to me. My 51-year-old self, which I just turned 51 last week. Pretty crazy. And I hope that maybe some people, I'm going to put this on Jesus TV. It's funny because I was talking to Greg Muller the other day, which was an awesome experience to talk to him. He's such a cool guy. And seems like he lives by that same creed, to be genuine, to act in good faith, and to intend no harm. You have to ask him and to stay with God. But, that's my creed, and it seems like it's his too. But I had a chance to talk to him, and I told him, I was like, why? You know how I know that Jesus TV is going to be popular, at least to some in the future? And he's like, tell me why. And I was like, because I love it right now. And it's true, I love it. If you go see Jesus TV, Greg Muller's Jesus TV, or Aaron Smith's Jesus TV, all it is them telling you about their Jesus world, their Jesus Greg world, or their Jesus Aaron world, how it's coming along with them and Jesus, how they're dealing with the Jesus verse, and how they understand that everybody else also has a Jesus, whatever their name is, world, and they're also building their world with Jesus in the Jesus verse, not the metaverse. and it's like therapy almost. It's better than therapy. It's you let Jesus be the therapist, and you just know that the voice is either the still small voice or your ego, and you figure it out. It's a really easy therapy. It gives you more Jesus in your life, and not for everybody. I want that to be clear too in the last minute of this thing. I don't think my approach to Jesus is everybody's approach, and my belief is just my belief. It's my best guess, my best understanding. So anyway, I'll end it at that, and I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. And we're signing off with Andy and Jesus here on Jesus TV.